So this week we're back again looking at, in this case, authoritarianism, and we notice that there's a regression. When someone is comfortable, when someone is de-stressed, they tend to make more collaborative decisions as a leader. However, when they become more stressed, when they become more tired, when they feel like they're in a more toxic environment, they tend to take on a more command and control, top-down leadership approach, and we're going to talk about a few ways we can combat that. Well, the first one is really simple. Recognize that you have the problem, right? You don't need to go too far into literature to find this. The best books are the ones that tell you what you already know. That itself comes from an authoritarian novel or a deconstruction of authoritarian novel. It's the novel 1984 by George Orwell. But it points out a good thing. Most of the time we know what we need to do. The first step is we have to de-stress. We have to walk away sometimes. Being at work all the time, thinking about work all the time, thinking about what you're doing right and wrong all the time is going to lead to undue stress. And reducing that undue stress is the first step in acknowledging that you have a problem and that it might lead to an authoritarian style because that stress is building and building and building. So in that case, you could look at the old British posters from World War II. Keep calm and carry on. And keeping calm is important. We often realize that very few leadership decisions are life or death. Unless you're working in an ER and people are rolling in with emergency critical wounds. For most people, you have time to think a little bit. You can de-stress a little bit. You can take a deep breath and think a problem through thoroughly. You can collaborate, you can consult with others, you can talk to your subordinates, you can talk to your superiors. It's usually not going to be a life or death decision. Sure, there can be project deadlines, there can be stress related to those deadlines, but that stress is manageable if you're open, if you talk about things, if you're collaborative, and if you keep a cool head about yourself. So, of course, those are all things that are going to help you. Remaining open is probably the biggest one. Another big thing is you can also acknowledge that you're stressed. You can also acknowledge that you feel like you have to give orders. Just tell people that. A lot of times, it's a very effective technique. Acknowledge the problem, face it head on, walk up to your manager or walk to your employees and say, look, guys, I'm really stressed today. This is going to be a busy day for us. It's going to be a tough, deadline we got to hit today. Let's talk about this real fast. How can we get our job done today? Quick huddle, 5-minute huddle. We do those in healthcare all the time, where our leader is sitting down with us before a shift starts, sometimes during a shift, sometimes after a shift. It's a huddle. It takes 5 minutes or fewer. The leader addresses the goals for the shift, the goals for the project, the goals for the event, whatever it is, and opens up the floor for a few seconds, gets some quick feedback, and then make sure everyone's on the same page, ready, set, go. Just like in football. Football teams do a huddle, play by play by play. There's nothing wrong with a leader doing that either. And even though the stress is still going to be there, the tension's still going to be there, you've effectively managed it, and you've reduced your capacity to make authoritarian statements. You're not just going to an employee and saying, do this now. You're saying, okay, everybody, this is what we need to get done today. How can we get it done? Who's going to take some responsibility? And that taking of responsibility from your team is what we'll talk about in our next video, which is followership.